we're live.
Good evening, everyone. I am Stephen Schwartz, a co-founder of the East Hampton Group for Good Government, the GGG, and we are very proud to be sponsoring tonight's town board debate. Just a brief word about the GGG. We started about 12 years ago, started by a group of concerned citizens. We are strictly nonpartisan. We span the political spectrum, Democrats, Republicans, Independence Party, socialists, and libertarians. We've got them all. But the one thing that we have in common is a feeling of respect for each other and notions that democracy requires civility and the ability to listen to other people. And that's how we've run it for 12 years, and it's been very successful. We have had many forums, debates, school board debates, political debates, and we encourage the dissemination of information so that you, the citizens, can make intelligent choices. We respect each other, and we would expect that everybody who participates will respect each other. I'd like to introduce now our chairman, Arthur Malman, who will lead this debate.
Hello. For those of you who are familiar with our debates, the format will sound relatively simple and straightforward. Everything is pretty much in 1-minute segments. At the first part of the debate, the candidates will tell you who they are, what their backgrounds are, and what their goals are for East Hampton. Then there'll be a series of questions, again, 1 minute each. That is, each person will have 1 minute to answer each question. And after each person has a chance to go for 1 minute or less, if they want to be shorter, then we'll come back for a second round on that same question. And anybody who would like to can add something to their first answer for that question. The questions will go one after the other. If Kate goes first, on one question, next one will be Kathy or so forth. At the end, we'll have a wrap up where each person gets, again, 1 minute to describe themselves and why you should vote for them. We invited all of the candidates for the town council to this debate, this Zoom debate, because of the still very high positivity rate of COVID in East Hampton. We thought it was prudent to do this as a Zoom debate. And two of the candidates said that they would not participate unless it was live, and we weren't ready to take that responsibility. So in any event, tonight we have Kate Rogers, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, and John Whelan with us. And doing this alphabetically, Kathy, do you want to start and give us 1 minute about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. So good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, and I live in Springs with my husband, Joe Gonzalez. And we have 2 kids, Nina and Burke. Nina is a senior in college, and Burke is now living on his own in New York City. For the last 4 years, I've been working on issues that have really been important to me, that strike me right in the heart. And that's the work that I do with Human Services. We have worked on increasing adolescent mental health services here for our kids who are struggling with anxiety and depression. We've worked with the YMCA and John Ryan Sr. and the Hampton Lifeguard Association to waterproof our kids so that, kids that are growing up here and around the water should, know how to swim. We've increased services, health and wellness services for our seniors. We did a pilot program at the Ashwell Hall, and it was very successful. So that was a precursor to what we'll be doing when we open and build our new senior center. So I'm really proud of my record, the work that I've done, and I really look forward to continue to serve my community. Thank you.
By the way, I'm sorry, I never told everybody that Stephen Schwartz, besides being the co-founder, is a phenomenal timekeeper. a beautiful sign that says 10 seconds. Kate, I guess you're next.
Yes, thank you, Arthur. Good evening, everyone who's watching, and thank you to GGG for this opportunity to present my views to our community. For over 20 years, I have been working to protect our neighborhoods and our environment in this town. I am an advocate for renewable energy, a former zoning board member and vice chair for a total of 9 years, a businesswoman, and a mother. I have been a member of the following town committees: Nature Preserve, Energy Sustainability, the Solarized Energized Task Force, and Emergency Preparedness. I am currently a member of the Springs Citizens Advisory Committee. I am a founding member and a former co-chair of the New York State Coalition of Climate Reality Chapters, Win with Win, WinWorks Long Island, as well as the former chairperson of the East Hampton Democratic Party. I would like to thank the voters for choosing me as one of the town board candidates in the June primary. I know that the key to public service is bringing people together to solve problems, and I am deeply committed to our town. As councilwoman, I will bring the experienced leadership needed to join our community together in pursuit of the problems to the issues that we face. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. John?
Thank you. And thank you, Arthur and Stephen and the GGG, and good evening, everyone. I am John Whelan. I am a Democrat, and I've been endorsed by the Independence Party to run for town board. And I would like to tell you a little about myself. I grew up here in East Hampton, born in Southampton Hospital. I graduated from the high school in 1975. I went on to receive degrees in fine arts and literature, and went on to get a master's degree in architecture. I grew up on a farm in Northwest. I enjoyed the beauty of Northwest Woods and Northwest Harbor, fishing and farming and cycling and riding a horse. And it was just an incredible, I feel blessed to have such an upbringing, actually. And I started attending zoning boards and meetings and things like that, and town board meetings in high school, as my father was town attorney and authored the town zoning code. So I've been doing this for years, and I've been passionate about the beauty of our town. And I look forward to telling you more about myself and my priorities if elected to the town board. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Now let's go into the questions. We have a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure how far we'll get. In general, by the way, I would mention to you that we solicited questions not only from our members through an email brochure handout, but also from the public generally through our ad in the Star, for example. There was a place to send in questions. By far, the overwhelming number of questions were on the airport, affordable housing, and COVID. And we can't have time, obviously, to ask all the questions. So we try to put the questions on a topic together to come up with one question or maybe two questions on each of these topics, as well as other topics that are of interest to people in the town. The first one will be Kate, so you'll go first since Kathy started off the introductions, and it's on the senior center. And we all know that everybody's been working hard for the senior center and on the senior center, which had to be replaced many years ago. And the town apparently just bought a new parcel on Abraham's Path, I believe. Would you pledge to resign in 4 years if a new senior center is not yet open and operating?
I would pledge to, I think, yes, I would think that if we have the plans in operation, I think that if it's not up to the building stage in 4 years, at the very least, then yes, I don't think that I would have been doing my job.
Let's see, I guess, John, you're next.
Okay, thank you. I would certainly hope that it would be completely built in 4 years. Again, besides my work as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals the last 7 years and Suffolk County Planning Commission for 2 years, I've spent 30 years managing projects. I spent years at the Raw School. I've been working on the county projects with the County Planning Commission. And I'm used to working with budgets. I'm used to working with planners, engineers, landscape architects, HVAC engineers, specialists, acoustical engineers, and working with clients and the public. And I feel that I bring much expertise to the field and to getting projects like this constructed and to getting affordable housing constructed, and that's what I feel is one of the main attributes that I would be bringing to the town board. As well as that, I feel like I believe I work well with people, and I know how to be a team player with board members and with contractors and people like that are involved in these projects. I've seen many projects designed and built through fruition, and I look forward to being a part of the Senior Citizen Center. Thank you.
Kathy?
Sure, thank you. So in 2017, we proposed a new center, and that was supposed to be sited on the current location on Springs Fireplace Road, because that's where the seniors that were using the center and staff felt that it should be sited. So as we got into planning, we realized that it wasn't the appropriate site. There wasn't enough adequate outdoor space. The Springs Fireplace corridor was getting developed and redeveloped and becoming more and more congested. So in this real estate market, it took time for us to locate a new property. And you mentioned Arthur, we have closed on a new site on Abraham's Path. It's adjacent to the Terry King Ball Field. It's 7 acres. It's a flag lot. And the gentleman, Alexander Kabaz, that owns the space, in the contract that we signed, gave us the right of first refusal to buy the remaining 7 acres when he decides to sell. And some folks may know that property as Artist Woods. There are certain things that sometimes are outside your control. So, to say what I pledged to resign in 4 years, right now during the pandemic, builders were having trouble getting supplies and materials and things got delayed. So, if it was on me, then yes. But if it's things that are outside of our control, then I think that would have to be taken into consideration.
Okay, now, on our format, everybody gets 1 more minute if they'd like.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yes, Arthur, I just want to clarify the confusion when you said resign. In 4 years, if I am elected, another election would be coming up. And if my job performance was not sufficient for the voters, I would not expect to be reelected. I think that holding ourselves to a high standard of not just speaking about things, but getting them done with the considerations that Kathy's talking about when we are living in these times where we have trouble with supply chains, et cetera, is something to think about. But overall, I would expect the informed voters of this town not to vote for me if I had a poor job performance as a town board member.
John, you want to add anything? Or?
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah. So Kathy has been a councilwoman for 8 years and working on this, and I think it's time to bring in some new help, and that's why I would like to be on the town board. I've seen the RFP, and it's quite vague that's going out there. I would like to see local architects and landscape architects involved. I would like to see an architectural competition. I would like for the board not to make the selection on who's going to be doing and designing this building until the new board is elected. It's that important, and 2 months isn't going to make a difference after 8 years. Again, I think I bring the expertise to work on such a committee, to work with local architects, landscape architects, to work with the people who would be involved in this project. And I would hope it would not be the same Mid-Island firm that came up with the 2017 proposal that was less than mediocre as far as what I believe it should be to serve this community. So our civic buildings should be very special in East Hampton, and we have a plethora of talent here from which we can take advantage. And I would like to be a part of that and go full speed ahead with getting that project completed and affordable housing. Thank you.
Kathy?
So the project is moving forward, the new senior center that we just talked about. We've got $10 million in the capital budget, which included the purchase of the property, which was about $1.63 million. The town went out for RFPs for architectural services. John will learn that, there's state code and how purchasing happens, and you can't just have a competition for when you're spending upwards of $8 or $9 million. There has to be a very specific process. Our purchasing director keeps us in line as we move forward with that. The committee reviewed 15 proposals from architectural firms. Many were local. local. That was one of the things we did ask, and they got points for. There is a point system. Every person that's on the committee needed to read and grade the 15 proposals. We had hours of discussion over those proposals, and we've narrowed it down, and we'll be interviewing a number of firms and probably coming back to the town board in November with a recommendation.
Okay, well, we sort of slipped into affordable housing, which is our next question. And John, you were the slipper, so you go first on this one. We know that there are thousands of people looking for affordable housing in East Hampton, and yet only about 30 to 40 units get built in a good year. One suggestion is to have the town buy houses and renovate them into affordable units. How much would each cost? How many could be made available per year? Alternatively, why not just downzone several sites and build larger complexes at lower costs per unit faster?
Well, again, I understand what Kathy's saying, although the RFP did not ask for any really specific proposals or design intent. So it really was lacking in the architecture, and there was no scope for the budget. But moving on to affordable housing, we can, thank goodness for the new Peconic Housing Fund, we can use that money as well, which will certainly help our affordable housing. I think we need to use existing structures with the CPF money, with the money that we can use for affordable housing. I think we could do renovations, and when we do new buildings and new projects, I would like to get as many people as we can involved in this and make it really much more of a public process rather than a small committee that's going to be picking the senior citizen center. I think we need green buildings with a light footprint. We should not be using prime agricultural land or prime open space when we build this. These smaller buildings could be either single structures or groupings. They should be work well with what's existing in transportation, in the sanitary and water supply, electric supply, etc. So I think I can bring a lot to the board when it comes to affordable housing, and I look forward to working on that, obviously. Thank you.
Kathy, I guess you're next.
Sure. So the town, between the town and the East Hampton Housing Authority, they manage about 600 affordable housing units in the town. In the last few years, 50 units came on, and another 110 are slated to come on in the next few years. And the way that breaks down is we did the Manor House project on Acquabonic. East Hampton Housing Authority did the project in Gansett Green, called Gansett Meadows over in Amagansett. They're now working on a project for 50 units, apartment units on 3 Mile Harbor. The town is actually going to be discussing at our work session tomorrow, affordable housing. We bought property, 395 Panago Road. And there will be a discussion because right now the town code allows for half-acre zoning. So we have 7 acres there, so that would allow for 14 units. The county allows for quarter-acre zoning. And what the Community Housing Opportunity Fund Committee recommended, which we call CHOP, they recommended doing 3 houses per acre. So we're going to be discussing that, and that is a way to get 20 single-family houses in our community.
Kate?
Yes, first I would like to say how thrilled I am that the governor signed Assemblyman Fred Thiel's housing funding bill 2633. I thank all the people that joined me in contacting the governor to advocate for this bill, and the supervisor who signed on to a letter of support. This is a crucial element for us to be able to develop the housing projects that we're talking about now. That is not a done deal. We still will have to go through a townwide referendum before we can use that. The housing fund, however, is key because it'll be used to provide financial assistance to first-time home buyers, the production of community housing for sale and for rent, and as John and Kathy spoke about, rehab of existing buildings. I'd also like to look at the codes that we have on the books right now, particularly to the codes that have to do with the building affordable apartments inside of your homes, and to see how successful that is, and take a look at how we can improve that program so that people can stay here and have affordable housing apartments, accessory apartments in their homes.
Okay, now we're in our second round on this question. And John, I guess you have a chance first to speak a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as far as the cost for these different structures, obviously that's a hard number to pin down. But I would like to see that we can work more with the community and make this more of a public forum. Obviously, where these sites are planned, there are not all sorts of opportunities, but where these sites are planned, what kind of structures are going up. The Martha's Vineyard Island Housing Trust is a nice template where you can build smaller houses with perhaps 2 people living them, or 2 small families, or 1 single family, and they can be completely net zero homes, and the community can get involved in this. And we need to, again, if there are any structures that could be refurbished, I think that is key. We want the smallest footprint possible. We must build affordable housing, though. It's absolutely necessary to mitigate the traffic that's coming out here from the trade parade, and also to eliminate the brain drain that occurs when our young high school graduates, and I have 3 daughters and 2 grandchildren, but when our young children go off to college and get degrees and then don't come back because they can't afford to buy an $800,000 or $900,000 ranch house in East Hampton. So the problem is key. It's going to be a lot of work, and it's much more than a 1-minute answer, but thank you.
Okay. Sure. Kathy?
Sure. So as Kate touched, on, the governor just signed the Community Housing Fund, and that is similar to the Community Preservation Fund. It's 0.5% on the transfer of property over a certain dollar figure, and that money can be used to help folks with their first down payment, or it could be used by the town to purchase properties, or it could be used to offset construction costs, so that we can make it so that these homes or apartments are truly affordable. In the 2018 budget, was actually Larry Cantwell's last budget. He had put $2 million in the budget to purchase properties, and that's the monies we used when we bought on Panago and on Route 114. But the beauty now is our bond rating. We have a AAA bond rating, and it's so low. I think at one point we were paying 0.5%, that it makes more sense now. The town could bond for money, and this is a perfect source, the Community Housing Fund, although it requires a public referendum in November of 2022, and there'll be more to come on that.
Kate?
Yes, I recognize that there's not a one-size-fits-all answer for this issue. We need senior housing, we need workforce housing, and we are now starting to see some of the impacts of business staffing issues and keeping teachers and keeping first responders in our town. So we can't slow down on this effort. And when I moved to East Hampton 20 years ago, I was Councilman Pete Hammerly asked me to be the neighborhood liaison for the Green Hollow housing development. It's a very successful housing development. It is half-acre zoning. There were 6 different local builders who built the homes. I had the neighbors in my house, and we came up with the concerns that were easily addressed. One, cut for septic and driveway, tree lines, 50-foot buffers, fitting it into the neighborhood, no large signs, creating a separate neighborhood. And it's successful, and it has helped many families stay here and raise children today.
Good. Our next question is about the airport. So I sort of warn you, it's the longest, most complicated question, and I'm more than happy to read it more times than one if everybody can't follow it. So don't have any hesitancy about this. Most folks recognize that the status quo at East Hampton Airport is unsustainable. However, if East Hampton Airport limits noisy helicopters and seaplanes, a substantial portion will divert to Montauk. Unfortunately, Montauk in 2008 got an FAA grant for improvements. And the FAA grants are designed to expand the air traffic system nationwide. And so as a result of accepting the grant, Montauk is prohibited until 2028 from denying permission for planes to land, except in safety. If the town were to buy the airport, the prohibition against preventing planes from landing would be the same for the town. So the real question is, how do you limit noisy helicopters and seaplanes at East Hampton Airport. And yet the town board has pretty much pledged to Montauk people that they wouldn't suffer more noise as a result of whatever is done at East Hampton. It's a very difficult problem. Kate, why don't you try solving it in about 1 minute?
Actually, I think I was next.
That's plenty of time, Arthur. Sorry,
Oh,
Kathy.
no.
I think I'm next.
Oh, I'm sorry. You aren't getting next, Kathy.
Okay. Sure. So I've been involved and have taken the lead on the airport for the last 8 years. And in 2017, we sought to mitigate the noise by passing 3 local laws. The operators sued and the courts ruled in favor of the FAA, although we did have curfews in place for 2 seasons. But now we're free of those FAA regulations. So now is the time for us to act. And we're finally now poised in a position where we can solve this problem. You know, we've done a very public process. We've provided the facts. We've been engaging the community. There's more work sessions on the airport tomorrow, the 12th, October 12th, and again on October 19th. And, you know, according to the FAA, we can close East Hampton Airport temporarily and open it up as a publicly owned private use airport. So our Aviation Council is coming to the meeting on the 19th. They're going to give us their options that they think, potential restrictions and actions the board can take to provide meaningful relief. But as I've stated publicly on dozens of occasions, I cannot support restrictions that'll divert traffic from East Hampton to Montauk,
Okay.
which is, I've got so much more to say.
We're going to have 25 rounds on this question.
That's
Kathy.
great.
And by the way, just as an aside, it was the overwhelming
Really?
topic for people who sent in questions. On all sides. I thought there were 2, and there were only 25 sides to this issue. Kate,
Right.
I'm going to now give you a chance. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, Arthur. Thank you. And of course, we are at a historic time for this decision, and this decision needs to be made as soon as possible. I look at this as needing to look at it as a holistic picture, not if this, then that. So therefore, I propose that the town immediately pursues acquisition of the Montauk Airport. Even with the grant assurances as they are, look to ways to perhaps buy back or other ways to deal with that. But I don't think we do this and then that. I think everything has to happen at the same time. And then I would support regulations to regarding the type of aircraft that can land at the East Hampton Airport. I've been attending all of the Wainscott CACs, as you know, the AMAC meetings and the Montauk CACs. And as you said, we all agree that the status quo cannot be maintained. It is finding that needle, threading the needle that supports the needs and ends the impacts of the noise without diverting it. So I would advocate to pursue the purchase of the Montauk Airport ASAP.
John?
Okay, thank you. My position on East Hampton and on Montauk would be the following. I would propose work with the town board if elected and work with Cooley and the attorneys working on this for the town to do the following: to close down the airport until we can get legislation that cannot be held up in courts for 3 years, so that we do not have the status quo going on while this is in litigation. So we get very tight legislation. We reopen, we eliminate all helicopters, we eliminate all, or we ban all jets. We ban all commercial traffic, and we allow local pilots to be flying from there. With regard to Montauk, I would propose working as best we can as a town to purchase that through CPF if they were willing to buy that, or possible condemnation, or working with the owners to regulate what they can regulate. I think if East Hampton Airport were closed down and helicopters were coming into Montauk, I think Montauk citizens would rise up and really help the town make something happen there. We have to do that. We can then revegetate areas of the airport, shorten the runways at East Hampton, protect the meadowland, and work with solar farms, etc. My time is up. Thank you.
Kathy, your second
Sure.
round.
So as we've all stated, we need to ensure the community's quality of life from Wayne-Scott to Montauk, and we need to, thoroughly consider and protect that. We have been in discussions with the owners of the Montauk Airport, but that is not going to happen overnight. So we need to take action, put restrictions in place soon. And I think that. Because acquisitions take time. I mean, if we were to eliminate all jets and helicopters and commercial operations, it would light up East Hampton from Wayne-Scott to Montauk. Because where would these aircraft fly? But they'd fly over 27 from, the western side of the town to the easternmost point of the town. So, we need to look at things that we can do. Put in a curfew, say 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We could, shorten the runway with a can of paint by displacing the thresholds. And we can look to, at certain operations and how to address them so that we're not moving the problem to Montauk.
Okay.
Yes, I agree also with the curfew. I think that's a very reasonable restriction we all can agree on. I also support restricting any commercial aircraft, helicopters, jets, chartered, scheduled, however they're coming in right now. I do know that technology and in flights now, I'm not sure shorter runways can stop jets. There are many jets that now are smaller and need a much shorter distance to land. However, whatever we do, we need to make sure that this decision stays in perpetuity, that another town board can't come along in the future and change the ideas. The airport also has a multitude of endangered species and meadows that are existing there. I would propose putting easements on the land as soon as possible to protect those in perpetuity. Also take care of the Superfund cleanup and protect our drinking water in that aquifer. Before I would propose any project, including solar, I would want to make sure that those issues are taken care of.
John?
Thank you. Again, I'm talking about banning commercial traffic jets and helicopters and not just giving them the option if they can fit on the runway. But again, I would work on the revegetation of the property, protect the meadows, protect the watershed. That is an incredibly key parcel of our town over there. And the abandoned hangars could be used for community projects, for perhaps some trades. They could perhaps be some commercial, some trade spaces. They could be possibly some use for our citizens. They could be possibly galleries or some theater or community theater places. There's a lot that could be done over there in the airport and repurposing that airport and making it a place where perhaps on weekends people want to come over there and take a walk with footpaths that would meet all of the codes and regulations with regard to any flights. The flights, again, would be only local pilots flying small propeller planes. Cessna's coming out with a hybrid plane by 2024. In the future, I think we're going to see electric planes more and more. And that certainly is a good thing. I think the airport would need to be closely monitored once it does reopen to see what other further changes and restrictions may have to be made. Thank you.
Okay. Kate, you ducked the airport, and good for you. As being the first person. Now I've got you on something just as good, which is COVID. With the positivity rate in New York City down to about 1.2%, in East Hampton, it's still about 10% according to the latest data we saw. What steps would you take in East Hampton to bring down infections, positivity rates of both the Delta variants of COVID and protect us from the next variant of COVID or some other pandemic, given what we've learned so far?
Yes, thank you. I think this is a very important question. Actually, Arthur, I believe our positivity rate has recently gone as high as 15% here in East Hampton. Our kids just went back to school. And so we must be diligent on wearing masks indoors, following the CDC guidelines, making sure that we continue testing in town so that people have access to testing. We have the Montauk Testing Center, the East Hampton Town Hall Testing Center, and the new one that opened at the former CDC building in Wainscott. And I think these programs need to continue. I also believe that we can lower our positivity rates by just making sure that when we're indoors with each other, we wear a mask. I think that also making sure that we have vaccinations available here, as well as all boosters that come along available here in East Hampton. We're isolated from most of Suffolk County, and it was a real important feat for people in East Hampton to be able to have services here.
John?
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Kate. I would want to do whatever we can to educate our citizens to do what is necessary to bring the rates down. I must say I look forward to that happening because I think it is important for people to be able to get together, even if it is socially distanced with masks, and attend some of the meetings. I know that's not happening right now. I understand that. But in the future, I look forward to our town citizens being able to get not only on the Zoom calls, but being able to get out there and speak with each other and to our town board and our zoning boards and our planning boards, et cetera. But fortunately, as a nation, things are looking a little better. I heard some news on NPR this morning that overall things are looking better now. And I look forward to better things in the future for East Hampton.
Kathy?
So I would just have to say that the town board has been, on the forefront of this, and particularly Supervisor Vanskoyak. As soon as COVID hit, or we were getting hearing about the numbers, we shut down the senior center, we shut down the YMCA, kept our seniors home, pivoted, brought them frozen meals. It, over the course of about 16 months, provided over 80,000 frozen meals and delivered hundreds of prescriptions to them. I think part of this is education. The numbers that we're seeing are from our testing sites. As Kate mentioned, our East Hampton testing site, the numbers came back at about 15%. But you have to understand that's a small sample size. So we're not using that as gospel. It's directional. We've got a testing site behind Town Hall, one in Montauk, and we just contracted with another service that's using the CDCH building where they're doing saliva tests. So testing is important, keeping these meetings remote, wearing our masks, socially distanced, and education for the health of our community.
Okay. Kate, we're in the second round if you want to continue. Anybody can continue to go or not.
I think that between the three of us, and particularly with what Kathy has said, I think that these are the precautions that we could take now. I hope that, in the future vaccination, the ages for the vaccinations has been applied for come down. And it's just a matter of keeping diligent and safe and following the guidelines. When we do that, we have seen the numbers plummet. We've witnessed success. So I would just advocate for the education program that enumerates our successes and asks our community to keep going.
John?
Yes, again, I would look forward to better things for our town, and especially with regard to the seniors being able to get together for the YMCA for our citizens. And I must say, I applaud the outdoor dining that has taken effect. I think it's brought some. It is safe, obviously, when you're outside, and I think it's brought some new life to the village and also to Sag Harbor and Southampton and places like that. And I think sometimes we need a little bit of life in these spaces where people can get together safely and enjoy each other's company. That's all for now.
Okay, John. We're sort of running out of time, I know. So let me just do this as a one-rounder. Cell phone service. We know we need it. We know nobody wants it when it comes to towers. And the town is now negotiating possibly to get a big cell phone tower in the Girl Scout camp. But if that doesn't work, where should a big tower go to satisfy the needs of Northwest Woods and the Springs?
Is that for me? I'm sorry. Is it?
Yeah, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Okay, thank you. Yes, certainly. We are in a new age now, and this Zoom call testifies to that. We are in a new age, and especially with our police and our emergency services, we need the emergency communications to be working properly, and we need people to be able to call on their phones properly when there's an emergency. I do not think the Crandall, Norfolk site was an appropriate site. I know there are not 1,000 different sites from which to choose. What I would propose if elected is that we really open this thing up much more to the public and allow the public to see all of the available sites that are available for these cell towers, whether they be Northwest Springs, Montauk, or Wainscott, wherever, and see what the pros and cons are of these sites, and then make the hard decisions. Not everyone's going to be happy. We must have these towers. It's just a fact of life now. And we must have these towers. And I certainly propose that we work especially hard with regard to things like Springs and Montauk fire departments to get code compliant towers for the emergency equipment that do meet the fall zone and that do meet all the regulations that are required. Thank you.
Kathy?
So back in 2017, we started a $12 million upgrade to our emergency communication systems. And one of the pieces that was missing was an emergency communications tower in Springs. We had been working with American Tower. That was for the Girl Scout camp. That was our proposed site, but we then learned that we couldn't get the height that we needed. Since then, though, we've had conversations. I've actually been on 2 Zoom calls with the CEO of the Girl Scouts of Nassau County. The Girl Scouts motto is be prepared, and they are open and inviting us to site our emergency communications tower there. And the last phone call I had with the CEO was also with our rep from American Tower. And right now our attorneys are looking at contracts, and it's very promising and encouraging that we'll be able to site emergency communications. And at 185 feet, we'll be able to also site probably all 4 carriers on that site. Obviously, it's not town-owned property. It has to go through the planning board. But, we hope that will come to fruition because we need it.
Kate?
Yes, when we talk about engaging the community and whether there needs to be more community engagement, the town board sponsored a poll. It was on wireless communications. It was one of the, I believe, the most responded to poll in the town's history, particularly in Springs. There were over 800 respondents. The overwhelming majority called service poor to non-existent for not only their homes, but their businesses and while driving through areas in our town. This is not sustainable for our future. We do need to look at all the sites that are available, be transparent with the community, have visuals when we're presenting things. I think the Girl Scout camp, if that's promising, is certainly a #1 choice. But now when we speak of emergency communications, I believe that the Montauk emergency communications are finished. And I do not know how you put a code compliant 185-foot tower in the Springs Fire Department, but our first responders need to be able to speak to each other. We need to employ all that we can.
Okay. Now can we wrap things up? I guess Kathy went first on the openings. John, do you want to go first now?
Sure. Thank you. Again, this is really a job interview, and the people hiring us are the voters for the town of East Hampton. As a lifelong resident, I know a lot of people. Obviously, I've grown up here. I've gone away to college and graduate school. I've come back. I've served our town as a planner for the town of East Hampton. I served for 2 years as a commissioner for the town, representing our town at the Suffolk County Planning Commission level. I've spent the last 7.5 years chairing more than 300 zoning board meetings. At those meetings, we respect each other. They're very civil meetings. We respect each other's opinions. If there are differences, we agree to disagree, and we move along with the next application. I have grown up being involved in farming and construction, and I'm currently on the Eco Farm Board of Directors. I would like to promote much more of our town and our young people getting involved in raising vegetables, keeping them, selling them locally, working on the traffic for the town of East Hampton to mitigate that. There's no more time. I apologize. So much more to say.
Kate, you want to wrap up?
Sure. I thank you, Arthur, and GGG for this opportunity to express my views. I strongly believe that success in public office comes from facilitating an informed community, building coalitions, gathering diverse opinions, and finding consensus. If elected, I will act on the following critical issues: to upgrade townwide communications and reliable cell service and emergency radio services, to build more affordable housing, to change the status quo of the East Hampton Airport, to fight for renewable energy projects and against climate change, to end the nitrate and phosphorus pollution of our groundwater and surface water. And I support eminent domain proceedings for public beach access at Nat Peak Beach. I will bring to the town board the experience of those 20 years along with my long-term business experience. I will bring the same drive, passion, and positive energy that I brought to the community as a volunteer, a community organizer, and I will use this experience to work for all members of our community. This is what public service means to me, and I thank you.
Kathy?
Sure. Again, I want to thank GGG for sponsoring tonight's debate. Like all of us, I want to see East Hampton remain a beautiful, healthy, and an extraordinary place to live, work, and raise a family. A place where all of us share in the responsibility of caring for our community. Caring for our community means protecting drinking water, surface waters, and harbors and bays, as clean, pure water is vital. Advancing offshore wind and solar energy, utilizing science and skilled planning to address rising seas and coastal erosion, defending our beaches and beach access, leading a thoughtful process to secure meaningful relief from noisy aircraft operations, creating affordable housing opportunities, addressing the wireless coverage gaps, and collaborating with Stony Brook Southampton Hospital on a new emergency medical facility. I'm asking for your vote on November 2nd so I can continue to address the pressing needs of our children, our seniors, and our natural environment. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I hope all of our viewers will stay with us and enjoy, I hope, the supervisors debate, which follows probably in about 2 or 3 minutes as soon as we can say goodbye to these people who have helped us to understand what's going on in the town, and get everything set up for the supervisors debate, which will start, as I say, in about 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you all, and I hope you and the audience continue to join us on this.
Thank you very much.
Arthur and Stephen.
Thank you.